So what can farmers in this country expect by way of another round of compensation from the federal government? Let's see if we can get some of the answers and details from Canada's Minister of Agriculture, Lawrence MacAulay. Good to see you again, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks for coming in to speak with me. Your colleague, Chrystia Freeland, has said that farmers in this country will be compensated before this new free trade deal takes effect. Can you narrow that down for us? Can you give us some sort of time frame of when farmers can expect to be compensated for what they see as losses under this new deal?
Well, of course, what will happen is we're going to form a working group to make sure that we have input from the sectors, and then to work with government in order to come up with whatever we need to come up with in order to compensate farmers and make sure we have a strong supply management system in this country. That's what we have, and that's what we want to be sure we keep.
Let's be clear on who we're talking about. I mean, a lot of the news is about the effect that the new trade deals had on dairy farmers, but it affects farmers in all supply managed sectors. So is that who we're talking about? Not just dairy farmers, but eggs, poultry.
That's right.
They'll all be looked after?
That's right.
Okay. What amount of compensation will they get, and how will it be determined? You talked about the working group, but can you give us some idea of how it works? As someone who's not familiar, you're an ex-farmer, so you know how it works. So is it, you look at what each individual farmer's losses would be under this deal and then look at compensation for that? What
we have to do, Peter, first is sort of put the group together, and then there will be meetings with all the sectors that's involved. There's poultry, eggs, and turkeys, and of course the dairy sector, all sectors involved in the supply management sector. I suspect they will put groups together that will meet and come up with a formula that they feel should be used. That's the way we did work with SETA, and that's how I expect we will work at this. But it's the very early days in this transaction, so we're just working to put it together.
So when should they expect to see money? When the minister talks about, Chrystia Freeland says before the trade deal takes effect, are we talking months, years?
Oh no, well I would expect, but I don't want to preempt anybody we put together, but what I would expect to see happen, the group put together, and of course this trade deal has to be signed. Expect that will happen around the end of November. Then it has to be ratified by the three houses. So that'll take some time, and then 3 months after that, the new deal comes into play. Right. So it's well into next year before that will take place.
Okay.
But for me to put a figure on, or to just how we're going to do it, I don't think it's appropriate for government to decide just what should take place. What we have to do is deal with the sectors involved, find out what they suspect. I suspect they're going to be very interested in the long-term survival, or the long-term innovation and every other aspect that's involved in the dairy sector. So we have to see just exactly where they're coming from.
Okay. There are also concerns about the kind of milk products entering Canada from the U.S., concerns that more milk products increases perhaps the likelihood that products in this country will contain bovine growth hormone, which some U.S. farms use. What can you tell me about that? Will Canadian consumers be consuming potentially dairy products with bovine growth hormones?
Well, number one, if you're buying milk in the store and you see the blue label on the package,
that's the Canadian milk.
That's Canadian milk.
No, and we don't use bovine growth hormone.
We do not, but it is safe. But the reason it's an animal welfare issue, and it is not used in this country, but it is used in the U.S. But it's also important to realize.
But you're not saying that it won't be present in some product coming from the States, but
it will. It very well can be.
Yeah, and you're saying, but Canadians should look for the little blue cow.
Well, if they so desire to buy Canadian milk, the blue cow is on it. It's Canadian milk.
Because under the trade rules, you can't stop.
Oh no.
Any product that has bovine growth hormone, because the science is still arguable on it, you can't stop it from coming into Canada.
No, as you're fully aware, we're a science-based regulatory system. Any food that's consumed in this country is approved by the CFIA, and it is safe, recognized in this country and around the world.
Okay. The trade deal also puts caps on the amount of dairy product that can be exported by Canada to the rest of the world. That would compete with the United States in countries other than Mexico. Why is that in this deal? Why did we conclude a deal that has the Americans saying, if you export more Canadian product to these other countries that we do business with too, you'll start paying penalties?
It's important to realize, Peter, where this started. This started, number one, with the elimination. The Americans indicated quite clearly their goal was to eliminate the supply management system and having an open trade, have trade open totally between both countries. We had people at the table that were quite capable of bringing that down from total elimination. 20% was mentioned, 6%, now it's 3.59. I would rather if it was nothing. But a lot of great work done by our negotiators
Okay,
in
it's
order to do
interesting.
that.
So first it was get rid of supply management.
Absolutely.
And then at one point the American position was we want 20% of your
Well,
market.
there was different negotiations at the table that took place.
Okay.
But it's important to realize what the goal was, and it was stated quite clearly, and the precedent the day after the deal was signed indicated that the supply management was one issue that they were very concerned about, and it was a deal breaker.
Okay, so still, so part of the thing, something we gave away then was the right for the Americans to say, if you export any more of this to other countries, you pay a penalty.
Well, there's a cap.
How's that good for farmers?
There's cap on the product. If this is cap on like baby food and instant formula and this type of thing. But of course, we can still export, but it would be a cost beyond the
It'd be a higher
price.
rate.
Yes.
You pay a penalty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is
You're
the
okay
fact.
with that?
I would rather if it wasn't, but I wasn't at the table, so it's just part of the deal. And it's important to realize you're dealing with a deal that $2 billion a day passes over the Canadian-U.S. border, so there's a lot of things happen, but there's a lot of areas in the agricultural sector that's very appreciative of this. The beef industry, the cow-calf operation, all of these people were, and many, many others were so concerned.
So are you saying you acknowledge this was not a great deal for farmers, but it's what had to be done to get a deal that's of wider benefit to Canada?
I would indicate that this deal is very important to farmers. It provides stability. Let's say, as I mentioned, the cow-calf operation, they're just about to bring their young animals to sale. They would have lost approximately $50 an animal if we didn't have this deal in place. We produce and sell a lot of value-added products like canola, margarine, peanut butter, a lot of products that will go into the U.S. that are produced here, grown here. No, it is important to a large. The supply management sector took a hit. The rest of the agricultural sector looks at this as being very important for the stability and the market.
And let's finish on this. And you know what the dairy farmers have been saying, because they've been saying it for a while. They say they get bargained away in trade deal after trade deal. They're not happy about it. Death by 1,000 cuts, as you know how they refer to it. How can you say you've protected supply management if share after share that Canadian farmers are entitled to under supply management keeps disappearing?
Well, of course, Peter, number one, there's 90-some% of the quota still fully intact in this country. We have to realize that this started with the American government indicating they want to dismantle supply management. We end up with a very stable supply management system. We gave some access away. We have some restrictions, but it creates stability. There will be a compensation package paid to the supply management sector. We will make sure that it continues to thrive. And this deal in general is vitally important to this country. It's very important to our economy. $25 trillion a year in the economies of the three countries. Very important.
All right. Well, look, thanks for coming in to give us your perspective. So the word is farmers, supply managed farmers will be taken care of, and you're working on the details.
Thank you very much, and yes, they will.
All right. Take care.